Hey, just want to share a word on government. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what form of government we have here in the United States. Many think we're under a democracy, and we're not. We're under a constitutional republic. I want to explain the differences and why it's so important we don't confuse these things. First, the word democracy doesn't appear in the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. All of the founding fathers were adverse to democracy. They thought it was one of the greatest threats to our government, to a republic. Basically, democracy is when the majority rules. So if 60% vote one way, 40% vote the other way, then the 60% will always win. Now, you might think that's fair. However, history has shown again and again that it's actually unfair, and it's unfair to the best of society, and I explain why. Let's say 60% of the people vote that the other 40% should die. Then, under a pure democracy, the 40% gets slaughtered. That's why Benjamin Franklin said that democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Also, if you think about it, would you really want the majority of the people you know ruling the world? Again, history has shown that the masses are vulgar. Actually, the word vulgar comes from the Latin, which means the masses, the majority, the multitudes. So, again, not only is democracy unfair, but it's unfair to the best, because the best are always going to be a minority. Thirdly, one of the pitfalls of democracy is that throughout history, all democracies have actually been ruled by what are called oligarchies, meaning groups of people, shadow governments, the people with lots of money who can afford to advertise and promote and sway people's decisions. So, again, another downfall of democracy is that they're usually actually led by other people with agendas. They play upon the emotions of the people, and when there's a majority rule, the majority almost always rules in the favor of those who are ruling them psychologically. So, what is a republic? A republic is, again, a different form, a different system of government. First, under a constitutional republic, everybody has certain what are called unalienable rights. So, whereas in a democracy, everybody could maybe vote on who dies, under our Constitution, there are certain rights that people can't vote on. For example, my right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You just can't vote on that. So we have certain protected constitutional rights under a republic. And as we'll see, the purpose for a republic is just checks and balances, safeguards for things that democracy really doesn't protect against. So we have certain rights under a constitution. Also, under a republic, there is a democratic element in that the people do vote, but they don't have hands-on direct control of the government. Under a republic, what they do is they vote for the best representatives. They vote for those who have been to Harvard or Yale, or just the most sophisticated, the most intelligent, the geniuses, the most qualified. Society gets together and they vote for these delegates, for these representatives. And then these representatives get together and they rule as what's called an aristocracy. An aristocracy is a group of the higher echelon, the better people, the quote-unquote perfect people, the geniuses, again, the people who have their lives together the most, who are the most educated. And this was fine. This was fine. We in the United States got our idea of a republic from the Roman Republic, the ancient Roman Republic, about 2,000 years ago. And even back then, and here in the United States, it was understood that Joey working on the farm, he shouldn't rule the government. Instead, he can do his best to vote for who he thinks is his best representative, and then these representatives will get together and they'll rule. So, whereas democracy is the majority rules, and it's the worst who are the majority who rule, under republic, it's actually the minority, the very few who rule, and it's the best of the best that are the minority who rule. Now, another benefit of a republic is that you would think that the best of the best, the most intelligent, won't be easily swayed. They won't be easily persuaded. They won't be bribed to follow the whims of some oligarchy, some shadow government, you would think. So again, there are checks and balances under a republic. It stands in opposition to a democracy, hardcore, big time. It stands in opposition to a democracy. Again, we are not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic. You don't want to live under pure democracy. Pure democracy is the closest form of government to anarchy, which is no government. Another benefit of a republic has to do with it stands in opposition to autocracy. Autocracy, that's one-man rule, dictatorship, a monarchy, a king, what have you. Because, again, you have a bunch of the best people in your country together ruling, not just one person, but together ruling. You would think they would hold each other accountable. Whereas, if there's just one ruler, a dictator, a tyrant, or whatever, he can do whatever he wants, and there's no restraint. So again, a republic has many benefits. It's an ingenious system. It worked well for the Romans. Our founding fathers instituted it. They could have, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Alexander Hamilton. These were some of the wisest men of their time. They got together and they said, you know what? What form of government are we going to institute? Is it a monarchy? Is it democracy? What is it? They said, it's a constitutional republic. That's what they did. Now, again, it is a very good system, has good checks and balances. Keep in mind, we're not a democracy. You might hear this promoted a lot, and we talk about this oligarchy, shadow government, or what have you, people with the trillions who can pay for your social engineering, your mind manipulation, your programming. You know, people think that they don't exist. Of course they do. And check it out. They want you to believe that this is a democracy. And for about the last 150 years, since the time of Abraham Lincoln, there's been an agenda underway to have a feeling of democracy spread all throughout our country. And you'll see why. Really, it's the pattern for overthrowing a government, for overthrowing a republic as well. Vladimir Lenin, the man who started communism in Russia, he wrote a book about it. He said the way to overthrow the government, in Russia they had a Tsar, they had a king, and he said the way to do this is you have to first bring in democracy. You have to make the people feel that they have the power to overthrow, that that they have the rights, that they have the say, that whatever they say goes. You bring in democracy. From democracy, he says you promise socialism. And he says the key to socialism is medical. You got to promise them universal health care. This is not me. This is the communist dictator Vladimir Lenin 100 years ago in Russia. He said this. And then from socialism is really just a guise. It's a make-believe. It's just a spiderweb thin, paper thin away from communism. It's really all socialism is. It's a communism disguised in a costume. And he says you go from whatever form of government you have to democracy to socialism, and it's very easy to slip right into communism. So there's been an agenda underway for at least 150 years to make people feel very democratic. to make people hardcore on democracy. You'll see democracy thrown all over the media. And it's not for no reason. People are being paid to talk about democracy as though our government was a democracy. It's not. It's a constitutional republic. And again, think about that imagery. 2 wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. You don't want to live in a pure democracy. Now, with all of that said, again, a republic is a strong system. It can hold water. It's strong to an extent. To an extent. To an extent. And then really it just becomes weak. It becomes very weak. Benjamin Franklin, when he was leaving, signing the Constitution, a woman stopped him and said, "Sir, what have you given us? What form of government have you given us? A king, a democracy? What have you given us?" And his famous words were, "A republic, ma'am, if you can keep it." If you can keep it. Because he and the other founding fathers understood that a republic doesn't last forever. Doesn't last forever. The Roman Republic didn't last forever. No republics last. And there are a couple things that can break down a republic. I'll go over them with you. But first, again, I just want to speak on the fragility of a republic. And that is, it's just a piece of paper. The Constitution is just a piece of paper with some ink on it. That's literally how fragile the republic is. You just run up to the White House, rip it into pieces, and you're almost done with the republic. The ancient Greek lawgiver, Solon, he was working real hard on his laws, and his friend told him, "Solon, what are you doing, my friend? Why are you working so hard? Don't you know that's just paper? Nobody's gonna follow that stuff. It's just paper. What do you mean?" He says, "Laws are like spider webs. All they do is catch the little things, but the big things break right through them." And again, I want to go over some of the big things that can topple a republic. One is a big crisis. There's a big enough crisis, people cry out for one-man leadership. Even in ancient Roman times, or even nowadays, if there's a big enough national crisis, then the president actually takes on the role of a dictator, where he is able to make executive orders, and that's just for a short period of time. But if the crisis is bad enough, then it could lead to, technically, it could lead to a permanent dictatorship. Secondly, demoralization. I was just reading today in Aristotle's Politics. He talks about the strategies of a tyrant. He says one of the main things he has to do is he has to degrade the people. He needs to make them immoral. He needs to make them fear each other, to distrust each other. He needs to dumb down education. He needs to get rid of religion. Because when the people fear each other, they feel they need to cling to this higher power, this one man or whatever, this strong government. So, again, demoralization, removal of religion. You know, they've been pushing that hardcore for at least the last 50 years with Freddy Krueger and Halloween and pornography and this, that, the other, breaking down the family, breaking down morals, making people fear each other. And it's working. It's working. Another thing that can break down a republic is, again, democracy. Because if the people feel democratic enough, if the people feel like we can, you know, change the system, we could, whatever we say goes, then like I said, all they gotta do is rip up that Constitution. That's the end of it. That's what happened in the ancient republic. Caesar, Julius Caesar, he was sitting amongst the senators in the house, in the hall or whatever. And they said, "Hey, this guy, you know, he's just another senator like us. Why are you talking with so much authority? Who you think you are? This is a republic. You get your stuff straight." And Caesar got mad and he stood up. And he went outside, he flung the doors open to the city street in Rome, and he raised his voice and said, "Who's following me?" And that was the end of the republic. He got, like 5,000 people in the army, just went out to the country, and then that was the end of the republic. He came back to town, and that's it. He's an emperor. Napoleon did something similar about 200 years ago. Again, Vladimir Lenin. He tried to overthrow the government. They threw him in jail. That's it. All he did in jail was study 24 hours a day, came out even harder, got all the youth of the nation together, pushed democracy. That's it. Flip the king off his throne. Now you got socialism. Now you got communism. Now you got Stalin, Joseph Stalin, killing 40 million people under communism in Russia. Democracy is another threat, again, to a republic. It's like a hurricane out here. And fourthly, I just want to say that one charismatic leader, one strong personality is enough to rile up that democratic spirit and just get everybody going. Really, all you need is one. Again, a Caesar, a Napoleon, a Vladimir Lenin. You just need one charismatic leader, and it's big enough to topple a republic. So, with all of that said, Castro, there you go. Castro is another one. So, the point of all it is, before a hurricane swallows me or something, is that there are some fixes to this. I don't know, maybe we can fix the situation, maybe not. But we could do some things. One, get the idea out of here. This is a democracy. This is not a democracy. Anybody who you see a news reporter talking about democracy, right. You file a complaint, something, to your congressman. This is not a democracy. Stop talking about democracy. The United States is not a democracy. Two, we can institute morals, morality, religion. Follow whatever religion you want. But religion, Berkeley said that religion is the glue that holds together society and makes people trust each other. If we got rid of all of whatever, if we tried to stand up for religion, stand up for God, stand up for righteousness, speak out against people who try to put down religion, morality. If we brought back Aristotle's Ethics, Seneca's Letters, these are books that bring profound morality. The Bible, your religious book, whatever, the Quran, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, whatever. Every religion almost preaches morality. And we need that. Education. What you see in schools today is not education. That's not education. It's just not. It's just not. And I mean, there's a lot that we could say about that. Anybody who talks about socialism, get that out of here. And be careful for charismatic speakers, leaders, people running for office. You know, when the United States first began, anybody running for office who was what they call a pedagogue, meaning they spoke too enthusiastically, they played on the emotions of the crowds, they were not allowed to run for office. Everybody who ran for office when the United States first started, they had to have steel cold reason. They had to speak to people and not to their emotions, speak to their minds. You see somebody, a celebrity or whatever, trying to run for office and they're playing on the emotions of the people, that shouldn't be allowed, technically. The Founding Fathers wouldn't have had it. So these are just a few things that I wanted to point out before the tornado eats me. And, I mean, I think it's serious. I think it's important. Again, America's not a democracy. It's not. It's simply not. Anybody who tells you it is a democracy, they're trying to go somewhere with that. It doesn't end with democracy. It ends somewhere else. And historically, again, all democracies end in following the agenda of some rich personality. So take care. Hope this helps somehow. Peace out.